members. Very good to see all of you. We've waited a long time for you, so you're appreciated. Thank you for wanting to serve. So Fabian, will you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Counselor Vigil-Koppler.
Here.
Kate Kennedy.
Here.
Robert Lurcott. John Fines.
Morning.
Ryan Cordova. Is he here? I don't see him.
I see
We can ask Joe
Robert.
who's in the.
Robert's waiting to be let in.
Okay, so let me just say yes.
Yeah, there's 3 people.
Johanna Nelson is excused. Victoria Murphy.
Here.
Megan McGarity.
Here.
Okay, that's everybody, Counselor. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Kate Kennedy and seconded by John. Was that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, John Fines. So any discussion? I don't think so. Fabian, will you please call for the voice vote?
Absolutely. Melissa Coleman.
Yes.
Megan McGarity.
Yes.
Ryan Cordova. Oh, he's not here. John Fines.
Yes.
Robert Lurcott.
Robert's muted.
Hey, there I am. Okay, yes.
Kate Kennedy.
Yes.
Victoria Murphy.
Yes.
The motion carries, Counselor.
Did I vote? I don't think you called on me, but I'll
Oh,
vote.
Counselor Vigil-Koppler, sorry.
Yes. Now the motion carries. Next item is approval of the minutes from September 9th. Oh, wait. Next item is approval of the consent agenda, but there are no items. So I'll move past that. So next item is approval of the minutes, September 9th, 2021. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? It's been a long time ago, wasn't it? September. Do you remember?
That's 2021, but is it 2020?
I don't have any necessarily
2020.
changes, Madam
Thank
Chair,
you.
but it strikes me that there were a lot of issues that were talked about way back then that, you know, are worthy of some discussion now. I guess we can do that later.
Well, actually, unless it's on the agenda, Robert, we can't do it. You can bring it up under matters from the committee if there's anything from September.
All right.
But I will note the change. I couldn't see who made it, but Fabian, the minutes should read 2020.
Okay.
I think we discussed that, but it didn't get changed. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved by John Fines. Do I have a second?
Second.
And was that Kate?
Yes, that was Kate.
Yeah.
Okay. It's weird. It's hard to tell when I can't see the face, but thank you, Kate. Next is Fabian. Will you please call for the voice vote?
Absolutely. Counselor Joanne Vihil Coppler,
Yes.
Melissa Coleman,
Yes.
Megan McGarity,
Yes.
John Fines,
Yes.
Robert Lurcott,
Yes.
Kate Kennedy,
Yes.
Victoria Murphy.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. You have, it looks like the motion carries, Counselor.
Thank you, Fabian. Next item is action items consent. We have no items to approve. Item 7, action items discussion. There are no items under item 7. Just in case you're wondering, by the way, apparently PrimeGov makes these items permanent that we have to have on the agenda, even though there are no items. I prefer they not be there if they're not part of the agenda, but there they are. Next item is item 8, presentation, welcome and introduction of new members, Chair Vihil Coppler. That's me. Before I move to that, I would like to read a message from Holly Bradshaw Eakes, who served on this committee for how long, Fabian?
Oh, Holly's been here for, geez, I don't know, about 8 years maybe.
Yeah, a long time. She sent a very nice memo. Well, I'll just read what she said in part. As she tenders her resignation, she's confident in the ability of the newly appointed committee, which consists of individuals I know to have a deep understanding of the issues from a professional economic development perspective, and as small business owners who have benefited from economic development programs. It would be impossible to leave the committee in better hands. Please convey my appreciation to the committee and staff for your collective dedication and service to the city of Santa Fe and the small businesses that allow it to thrive. Sincerely, Holly. So, you know, Holly, I've only served with her, starting my 2nd year. And she's always been very helpful and a good contributor to this committee. And I hope we can get a letter of thanks out to her, Fabian, or something. So anyway, those are comments from Holly Bradshaw Eakes. So the next the purpose of this meeting, we don't have any approval items. Those will come in future meetings. But I did want to at least have a meeting because we haven't had one in a very long time. And I think it's important to keep the committee motivated, keep you enthusiastic about serving, and not just get an appointment and then never hear from a committee again. So that's not good. So I want to welcome everybody new. And I'd like if you could introduce yourselves. And so who wants to start? I think Victoria, I'll probably call on you first.
Well, I am Victoria Murphy, and one of the things that I like to say when I introduce myself to people is that my family has been in the Santa Fe area since 1598. So go back a little while. And I'm a realtor with Sotheby's International Realty, and I am married to personal injury attorney Dennis Murphy, and we actually share office space. So I guess you could say that with my husband, we are together 24/7. And I have a strong interest in what happens here in Santa Fe and the growth of Santa Fe. I think everything that's been happening for the last several years has been incredible, and I'm looking forward to making sure it continues that way. That's about
Thank
it.
you. Well, thank you, Victoria. Look forward to having your perspective on things. Let's see, who else needs to introduce? Is it Megan?
Thank
Yes.
you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Megan McGarity. I'm the interim director of the Santa Fe Higher Education Center. Along with the HEC, I've been working with Santa Fe Community College off and on since 2009. I have a background, and prior to that, I was assistant vice president and the loan administration manager for First National Santa Fe back when they were still a local bank. higher education is my passion. I'm from Santa Fe originally, and I truly believe that Santa Fe Community College is ready to serve at the forefront of culturally competent educational opportunities that connect our students with meaningful incomes. And that so we're poised to really approach workforce training and education, especially with respect to the Midtown, in a way that's more open arms for the community that we serve. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. Thank you very much. So Fabian, I don't know. Melissa? I don't know if you're,
Good morning. Hi.
hi.
I'm Melissa Coleman. I'm a new member. I'm the owner and president of La Puerta Originals. We're a custom door and cabinet manufacturer located on Highway 14 with the big horse. And I've owned the company for about 15 years, and I moved here 23 years ago, and I have 2 teenagers. Well, actually, my son just turned 20, so he's no longer a teenager. And I'm really excited to serve on this. I know what it's like to be a woman-owned business and struggle to have a quality of life in Santa Fe is, our choice. But I'm very excited to lend whatever expertise I can to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Melissa. I got a little confused because I know you've presented to us, when you presented La Puerta, but so I thought, I didn't remember if you were here to present where you do. I got a little bit, I was a little hesitant, but welcome aboard. Appreciate that. So I think that's it, Fabian. I don't know if there's anybody else.
No, everybody else is
Everybody's here.
existing members.
Right.
We
I
have-
don't see
we have,
anyone. I don't see anyone in the attendee room, so I think we're good.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead, Fabian.
I was going to say, Johanna Nelson is excused, and she's a new person, so she can introduce herself at our next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, and welcome again. So item 8B, overview of EDAC, our committee's duties and responsibilities. Fabian.
Good morning, EDAC members, Madam Chair, and staff. My name is Fabian Trujillo. I'm an economic developer for over 20 years. And I've been staffing the Economic Development Advisory Committee probably since 2010, 2011. So just a little bit history about the Economic Development Advisory Committee. It used to be the Business of Quality of Life Committee. Then in 2018, it was changed to Economic Development Advisory Committee. Its purpose is still is the same. It's basically review and recommend business-friendly climate policies and review the economic development projects and ensure that the economic development staff are implementing the economic development plan, which was the Angelou plan, was adopted in 2004, or any other subsequent plan. So you do that by providing your expertise and recommend. The powers you have are to review and recommend that. So what you're going to be reviewing are ordinances, resolutions, and regulations, and you get to provide that. So you make your recommendations through how you review them. Also, this has been an active committee. For those of you who don't know, this is where the bag ban for the single-use plastic bag ban was initiated and adopted. It came from a whole bunch of green business members that were part of the community And it was something that was, it was reviewed over a year. So there's been some significant legislation that's come out of this committee. You know, they've reviewed the business licensing and all kinds of other different policies. So that is kind of what your job is to do, is to review those city ordinances, initiate them, provide information to the governing body regarding policies and ordinances that are initiated. But your principal things are to review economic development projects, which is LEDA projects or other types of projects, review industrial revenue bonds, and review and oversee the budget that goes into the Office of Economic Development for economic development. So those are your main areas, and provide recommendations to the governing bodies. So that's primarily what you do. There's the EDAC consists of 10 members, and it's chaired, as you know, right by Councilor Vila Koppler, which is a member of the governing body, and the rest consist of members at large from the business community, and the qualifications are outlined in the ordinance and stuff. So those are the only questions, or that's my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, before we move to questions, I just want to let everyone know that on PrimeGov, there is an attachment that you can open that has more than what Fabian Trujillo just said, which is, more reading probably for you to review. So, you'll have this and you'll know, why it is you sit on the committee. For the new people, I'm wondering if you have any questions about PrimeGov and how to operate it. I'm sure Fabian could help you, give him a call, and he can walk you through how to use it. All right. So the sooner you learn to use it, I think the better off you're going to be. We did a conversion recently, and all of us had to learn how to use it. So the more you use it, the better you get. And I'll just say that. Does anyone have any questions about what your role is here, or how it, how the committee runs? Megan, I see a hand from you.
Thank you. I was curious how agenda items are set.
The chair and the staff person, in this case, it's Fabian. We meet prior to and determine what's on the horizon. Sometimes Fabian will have bonds and such, whether they be industrial revenue bonds or the like, and then that's something that comes through our committee. But any member on this committee is welcome to either call or write me and let me know if there's an item you would like us to consider.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. It's free and open until it's not. All right. Other questions for what the committee's purpose and role is? Okay, I don't see any hands.
I have a
Oh, I
question.
do. Kate, there's Kate. Yes.
I think other than Holly, I'm one of the longest standing members on the committee. I've been on here since it was EDRC, and quality of life and all the things. But I had a question for you, Counselor.
Okay.
When this committee meets, and what is the process of the minutes from this meeting going up to the governing body, and how do you guys consider the information coming out of committees when you make decisions in the council meetings?
So when usually, any ordinance or resolution changes are considered by the governing body. This committee has had several resolutions created and sent to the governing body. With regard to the minutes, it's really incumbent on city councilors to sign in and read minutes of committees that they wish to become more familiar with. I know they're posted. Now that we're on Zoom, I know several counselors do go back and watch the YouTube channel and watch meetings that they are interested in, or that they're not on the committee or they missed. So that's another avenue. Any counselors welcome to join our meetings. I don't think we've ever had one since I've been chair. Maybe that's more about me than it is about them. I'm not sure. No, but counselors have a full plate. So, I think all of us do what we can by going and researching particular items that committees consider. So again, we will go back and read minutes, or we will just watch YouTube channels of different meetings that have happened, or sign into the meeting. So
Thank
Kate,
you. That's really helpful. I think in a previous life of this committee, there was a feeling that we were putting a lot of work out there that was going unheard or unseen.
right. Well, it's hard to tell unless there's a major item that's come up. Like, for example, La Puerta. We discussed that a few months ago, and that went up to the city council, I believe. Did it, Fabian? I mean, there's so many things we do.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. So, there are items coming forth from time to time, and maybe Fabian, since we're going to do an overview of economic development. I think Rich will cover that.
Yeah.
But
Madam Chair, can I add something?
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, I wanted to say, Kate, to your question, that I want to let you know that our chairperson, Councilor Vio Koppler, is very good about letting the whole governing body know what she learned at our EDAC meetings. So she's been the chair for a couple of months, a couple of sessions, and she does the things beyond just ordinances that she learns at this committee. So I want to thank her for that. But
You're welcome.
she is another messenger of the work that we're doing. That's just on the ordinances, LEDA, et cetera, that comes in. So.
Thank you, Rich. Other questions for Fabian or me?
So, Counselor, can I just add something to what you were talking about with
Sure.
how legislation is? The way some meetings or items get on the agenda is that the governing body, when they're proposing resolutions and ordinances, they sometimes request that it go to the Economic Development Advisory Committee. But Jesse Guillen, who's our legislative liaison, looks at a lot of that, and that's where a lot of resolutions, ordinances, or regulations are scheduled, so we know what the schedule is going to be. So when you see a lot of that action, a lot of it goes through the Legislative Affairs Office for the city of Santa Fe.
And I guess I will also encourage anyone on the committee who sees a city council agenda and there's something you're interested in, and particularly maybe that has some relation to our work, you're certainly welcome to sign in to the meeting to offer public comment as a member of this committee, and certainly personally. But since we're speaking about this committee and communication, if you have something on the council that you see on the council agenda, feel free to call up and get yourself on record to provide public comment. That's very helpful. Okay, I want to recognize Ryan Cordova has joined us for the minutes, and I don't see anybody else. Okay, well then, so we're on to item 8C, overview of Office of Economic Development projects. Rich Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to everybody. I know that in our packet, we put a lot of documents there. I just have a couple slides. I'll send this to you as a PDF. I pulled them together this morning. It's been a week that was. Just gonna share my screen and go through some slides. Before I do, I wanted to make sure I introduce the staff that's here from Economic Development for our new committee members. We have Janice Krish, who can just raise her hand like that. She works on a lot of workforce development. She's involved with our CARES Act program, our incubator program, and is also small business support. We also have Lauren Lucero, who she's kind of a jack of all trade, newest person. She's been working on our public Wi-Fi program. She's been working on our COVID and Santa Fe Promise program. She works on our lease program. She works very closely with Sean Moody. and she has been kind of a step in and jump in type of person. So we're glad to have our youngest person on our team here, Lauren Lucero. Then we also have Fabian, who everybody knows. He's been our longest tenured person here on the team. And then we also have Sean Moody, who's there. Sean. Sean is new to our team, not new to the city, but new to the team. He is our new asset development manager, and he is working on all of the assets we have, whether they're underperforming or overperforming, whether our leases are, what's our long-term strategy. So he's been around now for about 5 weeks, Sean?
Yes.
Been on board, so been on for 5 weeks. And then let's see, who else we have, Lauren. And last we have Daniel Hernandez, who is our, I think he's there he is. Daniel Hernandez is our Midtown Development Project Manager. And so Daniel and I have been working with Liz over the last year or so, year and a half, on Midtown projects. And we are going to briefly talk about Midtown today. But Daniel's been working on the infrastructure, the fund financing, the project timeline. How do we get our staff together to understand what the best path forward is for the development? But Daniel is the person who we have as a contractor, as a project manager for Midtown. So that's our team.
Rich,
Yes,
did you overlook Liz Camacho?
Oh, I haven't overlooked Liz Camacho. I sent her for last because today is my 3-year anniversary working for the city, and Liz and I started a week apart. So she's got a week before me. So we both been here for 3 years. But Liz Camacho and I was sort of started in economic development together, and she has also, like Lauren, has been working on a lot of projects, and especially when I first started here. But she has been involved as a communications director on all of our economic initiatives, economic development initiatives. She's also has been spearheading the Santa Fe Promise campaign to COVID awareness. She has been working previously with our economic development resource letter, which I think you all got a copy of. And she sort of spreads her love around to all the other departments. She's kind of our messenger as we collaborate with other departments. As you know, economic development is now part of community development. Liz is kind of the collaboration person that we go to when we think about how to connect land use to economic development, tourism, to, economic development, et cetera. So I didn't mean to miss Liz out, but we're now 3 years in. So this is our 3rd year of EDAC. So yes. So with that, I just have a couple slides. As I said, I'm going to ask some of the members to sort of add color to them. It's only about 5 slides. I'll send this to you guys all as a PDF. But I thought I just would show you some, share some information that I have. Let's see. So let's see this. Fabian, you might have to give me screen share ability. There it goes. Okay, I got it. So today's update. So what I plan to do is just talk about current updates and activities, and then talk about moving forward. And that's where Sean and Daniel can talk about some of the things that are moving forward, and then we can look into the next year, FY22. So you received a very long document. We're very proud of it, 5 pages of FY21 year-to-date accomplishments. As you can see, our little engine that could has been doing a lot. And I sort of want to just focus on some of the work we've been doing, job training and workforce development. I see Megan here on our screen. Janice and I have been working very closely with her on crafting a workforce development plan. COVID kind of pushed it back to the back of the burner. We do want to create a new plan going into this new year. So Megan has been helpful with us, and Janice has been leading that charge. Entrepreneurship and innovation. We've been doing a lot of things in the entrepreneurship area. We started a new sponsorship with New Mexico Angels. We are sponsoring the Chambers of Commerce. And one of the reasons why actually investing in these organizations is that part of the job of economic development is to help stimulate the economy, to create a higher quality of life. So we're starting to work with these organizations by sponsoring them and looking at the types of programs that they're working on, and see how we can use it as a catalyst for the things that we're trying to do. We're also, I think that the food accelerator is about to start. We had a food accelerator that was successfully launched last year. We had 11 food companies that went into the acceleration program and that are ongoing right now. And then Creative Startups is the company that works on the accelerator. They're actually looking for food companies now, and I think that the accelerator starts in March. I think that's when it starts up. A number of events that happened over the past year. One of the big ones that was recent was the Global Entrepreneur Week. While it was mostly virtual, we still did it and had a myriad of different activities for entrepreneurs, knowing that when times get tough and economic downturns, that innovation is the way that most cities bring themselves out of the malaise. So we are always looking for ideas that will help with job growth, help with stimulating the economy, help with diversifying our economy. And so we look at that as a way to sort of express and nurture entrepreneurship, along with what I say here is industry cluster development. So one of the industry clusters that we're looking at is the cannabis industry. That right now is on the legislative agenda, so we want to get in front of that and be working with the governor's office on it. Fabian, if you could talk a little bit about small business support. We were a recipient and worked with the county on a CARES Act grant for small businesses. If you could just talk about some of the big high points of the program.
Sure. We had a really good program with the city. I mean, with the county. Just to go over the city, the county, and the town of Edgewood all partnered together to. We requested monies and we put a program together in a few months, and we received $3.6 million for this. And this money had to go out the door be approved by December 30th, and ultimately out the door by the first couple of weeks in January. So we actually had over 400 participants that submitted applications. We approved 168 grants for $3.6 million for an average of $21,783. We had a ceiling of $25,000 for each grant. And so all of those went out, and predominantly, I would say about 85% of them were in the city of Santa Fe. The rest were in the county and in the town of Edgewood. There was 232 grants that we were unable to fund because of the lack of money, and that would equal approximately $5.8 million. I would like to thank my colleague Janice Krish for all of the work that she did in helping review these. We spent a lot of long hours doing this over these few months, and I especially want to recognize the county staff that they weren't here. This was a great collaboration. They were the fiscal agent for the program, and they did yeoman's work, and we got this money out in a very short timeline. All of us worked as a team, and it's a good model of how we can work collaboratively in the future on other economic development projects. So that's what we did. Most of the businesses that we were awarded, nonprofits and small businesses. If you look in your packet, there's a list of all of the businesses with the names and all of the nonprofits that were awarded. So you might be able, and the amounts awarded for, you can look at those. I won't go through them, but I now stand for questions.
Fabian, can I ask, Madam Chair, if I can ask till we get through the presentation, we can sort of fold our questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Rich.
Okay, I just wanted to point out that if you were looking at the agenda materials, that third item that Fabian just mentioned was kind of stuck, but it's not. It's unstuck now, so it is viewable. Thanks to Jesse.
Great, thank you, Jesse. So as we move into the rest of our updates, Fabian, just want to, if you could briefly talk about business expansion, and I apologize, it's La Puerta, not La Puerta. but two of the things that we recently had for LEADA project, there are many new projects, expansion projects on the pipeline.
So one of the main things that I do is I help existing businesses in growing their business. And one of the things is a lot of expansions and recruitment, predominantly expansions. Santa Fe, if you see through your the economic development implementation strategy and the Angelou plan, we focus on helping existing businesses grow. And one of the ways that has become a really vital part of our expansions has been through the LEADA program. And for those of you who are new, the LEADA is the Local Economic Development Act, and it allows businesses and money, or it allows the government to provide investments to local businesses for expansions in land, building, and infrastructure to help them grow. And one of the things, and the reason I say this is good is because in just roughly about in 2014 or so, the state of New Mexico, the legislature appropriated well, first it was $50 million. Then since it's grown to about $100 million statewide, and it's allowed us to match these funds. So what we do through our expansion program is we work with existing businesses such as La Puerta Originals, which was a bit, well, Melissa can tell you a little bit more about her company, but basically we help them under the LEADA project. But we have several other projects that we've done over the years that you probably read about: Meow Wolf, Descartes Labs, Second Street Breweries, Santa Fe Spirits, and we have a pretty robust pipeline going forward. And you'll be able to you'll be seeing some of those coming in the next couple of months, and you'll be reviewing those. And so those are the things that we do with our expansions.
Great, thank you, Fabian. I spoke about the cannabis sector already, but I wanted to ask Liz if she could briefly talk about our Forward Cities program, reimagining the New Mexico food economy.
Certainly. So we had our regional convening as Forward Cities is a regional program that we do with Albuquerque, Espanola, Los Alamos, and that was in the county as well in end of November, and we had over 308 participants who joined. We had the Agricultural Secretary of State speak. We had the Secretary of Economic Development for the state also speak. And it was pretty packed. It was some great conversations that went on about how we can improve our regional economy by buying more local food products.
Great, thank you, Liz. Moving on to our current updates. As I mentioned, Sean Moody is our new asset development manager, and he's been working with me and the legal team on looking at all the assets we have, land and property, and asset for sale. And currently we have a Las Reyes parcel, which is on the northwest side of town. I have a link to that when I close the slides. I'll send you the link in the chat for part of the Santa Fe Estates. And then we're working with the Affordable Housing Office on some scattered sites of affordable housing projects where we could offer up land to promote affordable housing. And that he and Lauren actually have started launching a Munis add-on. Munis is our internal financial relationship or database system. And Lauren has been working with the finance department to put all of our leases into a current system where we can monitor them. We previously had not been doing that; it had all been paper. And then we went to a small tech option. And then when Munis started to expand, we added it into all of the workings that we have, the finance department. So Lauren is working on that. And then she works closely with Sean, but Sean is working with me and our legal team on public assets. But right now we just have one, which is Las Estrellas. And I can show you the link that you can go to see. We've launched a new website of land sales. So Sean, do you have anything to add to that, or?
No, I think I don't have anything unless anybody has questions, but I because there are new members on the committee, I would just mention that typically the revenue from land sales that we realize will go to the Economic Development Fund. There are exceptions for enterprise funds, for example, the rail yard and the Midtown campus and all of our utility division are enterprises, Parks and Rec. But where city realizes profits from lease, rent, or sale of land, right now the revenue funds directly Economic Development Fund.
Okay, thank you. So moving from there, I want to go into community development. As I said, that economic development is now a part of the community development department, which I'm now the director. And one of the things we're doing cross-department, land use, tourism, arts and culture, economic development, and housing, is that we're working on a COVID public awareness. As you know, as city citizens, we have a COVID issue, a pandemic here, and we're trying to get in front of it through public awareness. And so Liz, I want to, if you could briefly just talk about the campaign of Promise that you and Lauren have been working on.
Certainly. So one of the key things that we did, I think, as Rich mentioned, is we don't necessarily have a specific department to dealt with this. So everybody kind of came together, all hands on deck, didn't matter what department you were in, on how we could really do more COVID prevention. We had started off with the Santa Fe Promise, which was when we were doing, and we were in the green, and really having focused on like, hey, how can we open up the city and go about opening safely? That quickly shifted as we started seeing our COVID cases increase. And one of the key things that we learned was there are higher vulnerable index communities. And we saw those increase, particularly increases in the 87507 zip code that also then started extending to the 87505 zip code. And one of the things that we have done is really try to get sanitizer out to people, masks as well, and information, and as well as resources, because one of the things that we have is obviously an economic crisis. So we needed people to know what are the resources that you have available during this time. One of the biggest efforts that we did in conjunction with Chain Breakers and with Youth Works is deliver approximately over 6,000 bags to mobile home parks and apartment buildings, which had the face masks in them, 5 face masks, and they had, I think, 5 disinfectants, as well as lots of information in there about where you could get help with your electricity, where you could get help with the SNAP food programs, et cetera. And I think as we move forward, we're going to keep evolving the Santa Fe Promise campaign, try to get us to green again. And we have several initiatives that we're moving forward with, including more awareness about vaccine, where you can get the vaccines. And that's where we are with the Santa Fe Promise at the moment.
Thank you, Liz. One thing Liz did bring up about getting to green, if you do not know, right now I think we're currently at 6.2% and still in the red. So that means we only need 1.2% of a drop to get us to yellow. So some of this campaign is going to help us sort of reach to that yellow marker, but we are pretty close to the 5% gateway that we need to get from red to yellow. And so we're looking forward to doing that. So Janice, if you could just talk about where I live. This is not COVID awareness. It's a small business and shop local support program. And Janice, if you could just take a couple minutes to talk about what you're doing with tourism and on that program.
Absolutely. Yes. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so we have created, we're in the process of creating a shop, thank you for shopping local video. So this is in partnership with tourism and with our good friend Joe Abeda, who's been doing the filming. So we reached out to various businesses, about a dozen or so businesses in the Santa Fe community to basically say thank you for shopping local and say a few words about to the community. And so this video will be a 60-second and a 30-second video that will be broadcast on the Hutton screens throughout town. And we're very excited about that project. And the business community was really happy to do that. And they were glad that we were doing something like this for them. So it will showcase their businesses and also encourage people to buy our local products. And, you know, we're in small business survival mode, and what can we do to support these small businesses during this time? So this is one thing that we came up with, and the mayor's also in this video as well. So I think Joe is just wrapping up the shooting of the video.
Thank you, Janice. Another program we're doing from a community development standpoint is that during the CARES Act grant program, we had asked for money to help provide public Wi-Fi to many of our underserved neighborhoods. Liz had mentioned 507 and 505 zip codes. And so we used some of the CARES Act money, but we also received reimbursement from the state so that we are about to extend that public Wi-Fi program. And Lauren and I are working with our IT department to stand up a number of public Wi-Fi stations free to the dense mobile home parks that are on the south side. And then we're going to move a little bit north to the Hopewell Man neighborhood once we get the moving. So I think there are 8 mobile home parks that are going to stand up this free public Wi-Fi and then move north to the Hopewell Man, which is in the 505 zip code. Lastly, on this community development, we have been working with Thornburg Foundation, the Community Foundation, and Economic Development to create what we call a community data platform. And it's just a place where we're trying to showcase data that shows the health of our city from a tourism standpoint, from innovation, entrepreneurship, health of the city, demographics of the city. And we've been going forward with this this platform. The foundations helped fund the launch of it. And so Jennifer Fulbion on our staff and constituent services has been managing it. And I will add this link to the chat, but also will add it in this PDF when I send it out to you. But it's a great spot to, if you want to keep track of what's happening in our community and all the work that's being done, we're slowly putting it into one platform where you can see the health of a successful city, where we are now and where we'd like to be. So next we go to activities going forward. I'm going to start first with Daniel Hernandez. Daniel, if you could just give a quick update on Midtown and some of the activities that have happened over the last couple of weeks.
Well, you've probably seen in the newspaper a lot of discussion is going on around the future of Midtown. Last night, the governing body met in a special session to agree to mutually terminate an exclusive negotiation agreement. So maybe I'll just spend a couple of minutes giving a brief background about that so that it's clear in your mind about what you're reading in the newspapers today. Actually, there was an article, and there was a couple last week as well. So as far as just a little bit of history, the city had issued an RFP. We called it a request for expressions of interest, but it was basically an RFP in the summer of 2019. The response, and the developers and businesses who were interested in locating or developing in Midtown. By October, October 31st, the responses were due, and an evaluation committee was set up to, with a clear set of criteria about experience and capacity, qualifications, et cetera, to select out of that process a master developer. We selected a team called KDC Sienda. They call their team Team Midtown because almost all of the organizations and developers that were on their team were local from Santa Fe and Albuquerque, which was a really strong element of their approach to the master planning and redevelopment of the site. So we negotiated, after that evaluation, we finally entered into what's called an exclusive negotiation agreement. And what that is that it allows the developer and the city to walk step by step in analyzing the property, the site. What are the great challenges that we're all going to have to confront, and what are the opportunities that still present, and why they originally submitted, and why we think it's such a wonderful treasure for the city of Santa Fe. They went through that process since May. They started sort of feeling uncomfortable as COVID became more intense and affected the financial markets, their own investment strategies and thinking. And so late in winter and in January, they began describing some of the problems that they felt like were risks that they just didn't think that met their investment parameters. We thought maybe let's come to the table and see how we might overcome those. We had a 3-day workshop. We called it a charrette, which is just sort of an intense workshop where everyone's brains come and just try to problem solve all at one time. We did that over a 3-day period. And there was some major issues that we all agreed were stumbling blocks, but potential ways of overcoming them around infrastructure, about public finance, about the master planning and entitlements process, and how to rethink the existing buildings on the site. But by January, the developer felt as though that the investment parameters didn't meet their risk analysis, and so they submitted a letter to us in January asking for a mutual termination of that exclusive negotiation agreement. Last night, the governing body met to mutually terminate. So what we did, though, to position the city and make sure that we move forward in a strong, sort of well-positioned way moving forward, was we started internally creating very small teams that were addressing some of these really important issues that I talked about earlier. We're planning on going back to the governing body to make recommendations for their consideration, deliberation. It will be in a public forum around all these different issues, and to try to make it as clear and concise as possible so that people can make informed decisions and recommendations for moving forward. The other thing that we did more recently too, and is to commit to, because we know that transparency has been a concern to the public, we will be issuing bi-weekly, meaning once every 2 weeks, in time to go into the city council package, a progress report. That will be our progress report. That will give everyone an update about what's happening with Midtown as we move forward. And at least one out of those 2 meetings have a presentation so that there's a little bit deeper discussion besides just a written progress report. So we'll do that once a month as well at the city council meeting. And the city council was great, was happy to hear that announcement and strategy, and had actually recommended in previous discussions as well. So I think we're in a good position. We're sad that this process didn't work, but it's not an unusual event. Lots of cities go through this where something happens where the 2 parties just can't come together and decide not to move forward. In this case, like I said, the financial markets and the economic crisis caused by COVID had a ripple effect in various ways that were unpredicted. So again, I still strongly believe after many years of experience in large scale development that we're still in a good place. It's a great site. There's amazing capacity within the city to overcome some of these challenges, and we'll make recommendations how we can move forward into the future. And so please participate in that February 24th meeting. It'll be, like we said, public dialogue, a public presentation. So we look forward to doing that starting February 24th and moving forward on as Midtown unfolds. So thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks. So on the next 3, I will sort of quickly go through, we can get to questions, is that for the next fiscal year, I'm requesting that we receive some budget from our enterprise fund to do some growth management planning, growth management optimizing actually. And so one of the areas that we're looking at is that Tierra Contenta has a 3rd phase that's about to go into more than just a pencil back of the napkin. And we don't just want to do just the phase 3 piece of Tierra Contenta. We want to look at the entire area because there's a lot of open land there that was acquired in, I think, in 2012. And so we want to make sure that the whole area is reviewed as a part of this Tierra Contenta 3 portion. And so we're looking at some land use optimization for that area. And that's just one of the elements of this growth management optimization. And then there was a new article came into a paper called The Guardian, which may or may not have heard of, but it was talking about the zooming of Santa Fe, that there are a lot of people coming here because of our fantastic outdoors and our cultural aspects, and that also it's cheaper to live here. And so we are seeing this influx of people, both kids who went to college somewhere else and have come back home, and people who are coming from bigger cities who are coming to the city. So we need to focus on housing, affordable housing, and this influx of folks who see this as a beautiful place to come and live and stay and retire. So that's a part of this growth management planning that we're trying to get some money for in the next fiscal year. Also, I'm working with the county just in the beginning stages of a fiber architecture mapping. Sean Moody actually is our expert in that area, but right now he's focused on asset management, but he will probably be on a strategy team that will work with the county. The current Congress, or the previous Congress, passed a Phase 2 CARES Act funding, and that there was $3 billion in it for broadband, mostly, but there was broadband for public Wi-Fi for cities. as I said, a large portion was for the rural areas, but most of it was for cities too. As the new Biden administration, that's one of the things he wants to focus on as he talks about infrastructure and new infrastructure for the United States. So broadband will be a part of that because it's an equity issue also. Lastly, I briefly talked about it as that Liz and I have been working with a number of folks, including Megan, on an entrepreneurship hub. We want to find a central place where we can put all of our business support, business service partners so that we can promote and catalyze entrepreneurship and innovation in one spot. I think ultimately we'd like to put it in Midtown as we figure out our long-term development, but we've been working with Megan to see if we could start the center at the Higher Education Center. And so that's a big project that it got put on hold for a bit, but we're slowly, iteratively making our way through to making that a reality for our partners that are there and also for the businesses and entrepreneurs who could benefit from it. So with that, we're finished with my brief presentation. We're available for questions. The whole staff is here. I will add the links to all those sites that I told you about. When I send you this PDF, I'll put all the links on this page, but we're open for questions. And I see that Kate has her hand up, so she's again, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Kate, I do see your hand. Do you have a question?
Yes, I had a question going back to the CARES Act funding and the community support that the city did. I didn't see it on there, but the support for homeless shelters and specifically youth homeless. I know there was a great partnership in getting youth housed in the hotel program as well as some other options. And I just wanted to make sure that you guys got credit where that was deserved. I'm on the board for youth shelters, and that program was instrumental into truly saving lives, especially for our street homeless. We do have kids as young as 5 who do live on the streets, and some of those are with single parents. And so without the city's money, I don't know what would have happened. So thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could, thank you, Kate, for mentioning that. One of the things that we did in economic development, Liz spoke of earlier about, we worked across departments, is that our department also helped launch a food security program when COVID was raging. It's large now. It was, when we were really understanding COVID and what was happening, we had helped launch a food security matrix where we worked with the Food Depot. We set up a hot food program at the community college, working with the World Food Kitchen. And then we work with YouthWorks, which has a training program to help with the homeless shelter that we set up for indigent citizens at the campus. So we have been involved with a lot of it. And there's many other community related CARES Act program to what Kate was mentioning. And there is a report that was sent out. I think it was last week, and I can get that to everyone, but it's right, there was a lot of work that was done on the other department side for through the CARES Act grant.
Okay, thank you, Rich. So I'll call on John and then Robert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Rich, as always, for a good, thorough rundown of everything that your department's doing. There's a lot of exciting things there, and a lot of things I'd like to comment on, but I'm going to be mindful of the time, and maybe we'll look for another forum to talk about some of these in more detail. I think the big one for me right now, of course, is Midtown. And going back to Fabian's presentation about this committee and its role, I'm highly unclear as to what our role is vis-a-vis Midtown. It seems, Rich, that you're running it and Daniel's part of economic development. And here we have this committee. We haven't met in 5 months. And in the months prior to that, we had very little engagement in this process. And we were kind of begging for, going back a year ago, we were talking about PR and there were some transparency issues that came up, and we said, please involve us. We want to be involved. And please keep everybody involved, not just the committee. I mean, there was counselors saying they weren't knowing what was going on. And then when Sienda came up, it was like 3 hours notice to the public and to the counselors that it was coming up. And quite frankly, it seemed like the votes were kind of baked in, and this brief discussion just sort of happened, and boom, we went into an exclusive engagement with a Texas developer. And last night I noticed the discussion was, and Daniel, you kind of commented on this again today. Oh, well, this happens all the time. I think it was even posited at one point last night in the council meeting that it's more likely than not that this departure and misstep happens. Well, I don't remember being furnished with that information. And, not all of us are urban planners. And Santa Fe's never done anything like this, even the rail yard, and that was a long time ago, really. So if it's likely that developers cut and run when they run into trouble, and business being business, then why would we enter into an exclusive agreement with one? Why didn't we take the top 3 and let them kick the tires for 6 months? Because the fact is, with this 8 or 9 months lost, with every year, we lose twice the Economic Development Department's budget in just paying debt service on this land. So it's pretty serious business. Now, somebody's going to come back and say, oh, well, the only way you can do it is an exclusive agreement. I'm not going to buy into any of that. We're in charge here. And if it's likely, 20, 30, 50% likely that one of these things is going to go south when they find a little asbestos, then we need to think very carefully about who we let kick the tires and how, and not losing, time and money and goodwill of the public. And this all hurts more because that transparency was so missing in the beginning, even though we were all screaming for it. Couple other points. I took a look at this morning, I said, one of the things we don't do well enough here is we kind of reinvent the wheel, and we don't model our behavior on communities that have maybe gone through this before. We're a little town, we don't have the big budgets, but we can model our behavior on other places. And so I took a look at at last year's Pierre L'Enfant International Award winning planning award, International Planning Award. And it went to a Vancouver redevelopment. And it said what began as an infrastructure project, however, has evolved into a transformative planning process about people, reconciliation, cultural redress, and reconnecting communities. Sound familiar? And then in the engagement section, I'd love to talk more about this, but in the engagement section, it says, the Northeast Falls Creek Plan called for a diverse, values-based approach to more inclusive and community engagement. After each planning phase, public check-ins were held to gain the community's feedback. More than 7,500 people attended the nearly 100 scheduled events. Events included 2-week-long pop-up events in storefronts and outdoor street parties, which helped inform and seek input from residents about the plan. A council-appointed stewardship group met monthly to help guide the engagement process. So that's what's out there for us to copy. These are the people winning the international awards. That's what they're doing. And I can't even remember the last time we got the Midtown Monday update newsletter, 5 months ago, 6? So I don't want to beat this. It seems that the transparency topic has come up, but I can't help but not bring it up again. And another problem I'm having, because the transparency wasn't there in the first place, that makes me feel all kind of weird now, even though I agree with, Councilor Vihel-Coppler's comments last night. Hey, it's a new start. We have to look at the bright side. Of course we do. I don't want to look too much in the rearview mirror. But they're talking about COVID. Well, they took this on in May when COVID was crushing us. The vaccines were a pipe dream. We knew they took 4 to 10 years, and we could only cross our fingers that it would be less than that. And we had an administration that was dropping the ball at worst in the world. Now we've got vaccines that have 95% efficacy. We've got a new administration that's about to ramrod a $2 trillion package through, and all kinds of things are going the right way. And on top of that, you talk about financial markets. They're at an all-time high. There's money everywhere. The financial markets are rocking, and real estate in the West has never been so good. Albuquerque's up, 30, 50%? Little towns in Colorado, not Breckenridge or Telluride, are having these booms. Everybody wants to get out of California, not just COVID, for fires and everything else. This is the place to be. This is the place to have real estate. This is where it's at. Now, maybe Sienda Partners, maybe if they showed me their books or they did a better job of explaining themselves, I would gain some perspective. But sitting where I'm sitting and having watched this project for a long time, they're blaming COVID for real estate and market and development problems. Nah, this is going to be over before the ground is going to break on this thing. From what I can tell, this is a great project, and I don't see COVID having much or the financial markets being a worthy excuse here. So again, had there been You know, that's just what I'm thinking. That, you know, and then when I hear you guys say last night, oh, this happens all the time, it's totally normal. Well, then that makes me wonder, again, to repeat myself, the exclusive deal. Then why would we put all our eggs in one basket? A common mistake that Santa Fe makes, if there's this great likelihood that they're going to cut and run after 6 or 8 months, and we pay another $1 million on debt service. So that's just a little download from me. I won't go too far into it. We don't have to discuss it all today, but I would be remiss if not expressing myself and the thoughts of my friends and neighbors and colleagues in Santa Fe. So thank you very much for letting me go on a bit.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your comments very much. Robert?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some comments about the Midtown project as well. First, I'd like to give a shout out, or I'm not sure what the proper Zoom term is for that, but to Liz Camacho and the newsletter. I mean, that's just terrific. That's the way I keep up at all with what's happening in economic development. So it's been a godsend. I don't know to whom it goes or is how it's shown broadly, but it's a very good tool and very well done. I had some comment about the COVID program as well for small businesses. That was there was a statement about that in the September 9th minutes, where Rich was saying that he anticipated, I think, the same amount of money, 3.8 million for small businesses, and that there might be 300 out of 900 small businesses who would either qualify or be candidates of. I noticed in the paper yesterday or day before, it said that there are 168 businesses that got loans, same amount of money distributed. And I thought maybe I misunderstood Fabian's comment today that was 200 and some odd. So did we end up having to spend more money per business than we anticipated, or how come fewer businesses got money? And also, do we anticipate anything else coming in? I've been trying to follow the Biden package, and I haven't really seen in that more small business assistance loans. That's first question.
Madam Chair, I think Fabian could answer that question. If he can, I can give some insight to that question.
Sure, I'll be happy to answer it, Robert. Madam Chair and members of the committee, there was 168 loans that went out with an average of $21,783. We started the program just planning on granting $15,000 per business. We increased it to $25,000 because we had a lull in people who were applying for these grants, and we didn't get the businesses applying for grants until closer towards December. So when we first started out, like in October, we didn't get anything, and it was the pipeline was slow in October and November, and then we decided to change it. We can get more money out, and then when we did that, we had a lot of businesses who applied. What the 232 is those are 232 businesses who were eligible for grant funding and we didn't have money for. And so if we would have had $5.8 million more, we could have funded 232 businesses at approximately $25 or $21,700 per business.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Madam Chair, I'd like to add to that.
Oh, go ahead, Janice.
Yes, so Robert, also those businesses, those 232 that did not get funded, they will stay in the pipeline. So if and when we do get additional funding, their applications will still be there. They won't have to reapply, and we will be able to continue the process of funding them. So yeah, as Fabian mentioned, it was 15,000. And then we had to go back once we upped it to 25,000 to the businesses that had already received maybe 15,000 and give them an additional 10. And so the money ran out a lot quicker. Not all the businesses heard about this grant opportunity at the same time. So there was a lag, and then we amped up our efforts to get the word out about the grant opportunity. And that's when we got a lot of applications, but the decision had already been made to increase it to 25,000.
Yeah. And is there a line item in the 1.9 trillion that to extend that program? Do we know?
Madam Chair, Mr. Lurkott, there's a loan program in that line item, but I think the Biden administration is looking at extending grants to businesses. We are finding that small businesses really can't afford to take out loans, even though they're very low interest rate, they're long-term response. So right now, the grant program is there's a PPP, which they could apply for, but the new 1.9, I think, will include grants back to cities and to small businesses. So.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I have one more question.
All right.
It relates to Midtown, and I share some of the comments that some of the concerns John expressed. And again, looking back at the schedule that was outlined in the last meeting we had in September, a couple of things come out. One was that we were supposed to start the engagement program in the fall. I hadn't heard anything about it. Maybe that was suspended because of COVID, which would make sense. But there's no question to me that what started out in this project, which was that day-long charrette that we had out at the Southside Library, was open, and a lot of involvement just kind of ended. And I have not seen any connection between what grew out of that effort and the whole tone of that effort subsequently. And it's really this the newspaper talked about the shroud of secrecy, and I think that is kind of true and really unfortunate. I think we lost a lot of community support for the program because of that lack of transparency and the lack of an ongoing public engagement project or effort related to this. The other thing is the sort of front end planning. And I, as a planner, it strikes me that the way this is designed is to, allow the developer the maximum amount of opportunity to get involved and to make commitments. And it seems to be based on trying to get out from under the debt service as quickly as possible, which is understandable. But I think it's sort of like the kind of thing a municipality would do if they didn't think they had a good product. And so we got to get any developer we can find. I don't think that's true of this site or of Santa Fe in general. So it strikes me that we can be more proactive about saying what it is as a community we want this project to be. And I don't think you can do that if you just sort of leave it up to the developer to develop a plan. There are criteria, but I mean, for instance, it has terrible access as a site. And the community said it wanted public space improvements and connections with the community. I don't think a developer who's looking to try and get tenants is going to really be the best focus to try and get those kinds of things as a baseline for a good development. So it seems to me we do have an opportunity now because of what happened with the present developer to kind of rethink how we might do some solid planning at the front end of this, so the community has a better involvement and belief that this project is going to be outward looking toward the community and not simply toward getting the developer getting the best opportunity for him. So those two concerns I have, and I hope we do have the opportunity as a group to keep working, on a regular basis and having an update on what's going on and perhaps some input into how the process proceeds. I noticed there was a public engagement charrette on the 2nd, and maybe I missed that, but how is that going to be done given where we are now? That's what I have, Madam Chair.
All right, Robert, did you want an answer to that last question, or was that rhetorical?
Oh, no, I do actually. I'm not sure how that's going to work, and it's coming up rather soon.
Daniel?
Madam Chair, Daniel can answer that question, Madam Chair.
As you may recall, the the University of New Mexico Design Planning Assistance Program, DPAC. Yeah, I can't remember actually. It's Design Planning Assistance Center was procured to manage the public engagement process. And as I had suggested earlier, that beginning probably in the fall, there was just a lot more due diligence that the developer was doing that we were beginning to uncover, and we weren't sure how to sort of move forward with the public engagement strategy, where there was just a lot of unanswered questions. So any smart person would say, I got to know a lot of stuff before I can begin engaging people in the questions that we need answered. And so that process got extended, yes, because of COVID. We were trying to figure out how to do a really meaningful engagement process. And we were having discussions with community organizations like, this is not the time to be doing this. That's happening while there was some due diligence or assessment issues that were happening at the same time. So it felt a little disingenuous for us to go out in the fall when we didn't know really the specific questions. It was a very different environment than January of last year, for example. So what we're doing with the charrette on Tuesday, February 2nd, is similar to what we did with the developer. We're doing with the DPAC team, the UNM DPAC team. The city has a subcommittee called the Public Engagement Committee. It's made up of the directors of various departments involved in communications, economic development, so anyways, planning. And they will be participating in the charrette with the DPAC team to talk about guiding principles, about equity, access, public voice, how we ensure that happens moving forward, what are the mistakes that we've made, what was bad, and how do we recover from that. But then the second part of the day will be on, all right, so what are the things we will actually deliver out of this process? We outlined those again pre-COVID, but the environment again is much different. You know, sitting around tables in a big gymnasium just isn't possible anymore. So how do we pivot from what we know today? A great thing is that community organizations are part of the DPAC team. So they have direct contact with various communities in the city, and we'll be hearing from them as well as part of this process on Tuesday. Again, that will be another thing that we report back to the governing body at the February 24th meeting.
A follow-up, Madam Chair?
Please go ahead.
That's on Tuesday, right? And who is going to be involved in that?
The UNM DPAC team and the Midtown Engagement Committee.
So it's the consultants and the city folks who are going to work on this. Okay, no community.
No, it is to how do we pivot and move forward.
All right. Okay. Because there's been no publicity about it. That's what I was concerned about.
Yeah, it's
it's another internal meeting, which you need to do, I'd say, but still, you got to get out to the public at some point pretty soon, it seems to me.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking that question, Robert, because I was wondering what the heck you were talking about. I hadn't heard about this either. So I appreciate your comments. Now, I think, Megan, you had your hand raised?
Just really quickly, I'm wondering with your, Rich, in your presentation, you had a date in there about like February 10th and some weekly check-in meetings for Midtown. Was that correct? I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity for a member or one or more members of this committee to serve on other committees. Like maybe there needs to be some cross-pollination where we have a member from this committee sitting on the Midtown Engagement Committee so that we're overlapping on our lines of communication.
Madam Chair, if I could, I think, Megan, thank you for the question. I think once this internal charrette's done, I think that's a question that we can ask Daniel, because they're trying to figure out how to reach deep into the community. And so they will probably be forming committees and then we can inform you when that's going to happen. But the February 10th date, it's bi-weekly, will be a development tactic update so that we're more engaged with the public. It'll be discussion at governing body. It'll go through committees, and we'll share it on our Midtown site. And so we will be able to sort of show you kind of what we're doing as a staff going forward, and the things that we've learned through this negotiation agreement. That wasn't a contract, it was just a diligence process that was going to get us to a contract. So I think once the charrette's done, that should inform what kind of committees need to be formed. I know that one of the things that we're supposed to be doing is we're going to be offering mini grants to community organizations. Reach out to immigrant communities, veterans, single mothers, game breakers, et cetera. And so there'll probably be other types of groups or committees that have been formed to look at proposals they're sending us of how to get the message out on a regular basis. Daniel, anything you want to add?
No, but I'll raise that question. I just wrote myself a note to raise that question. There will be one of the core elements of the DPAC public engagement is to have an advisory committee, for lack of better words. Right now, part of the discussion will be like, what is this committee called? But there will be members of local organizations, local civic organizations on that advisory committee to help sort of detail the public engagement process, monitor it, track it, tweak it along the way. And the so part of what Rich was just talking about is participants on that advisory committee will be people who respond to the solicitation to get a mini grant, because the mini grant, what the purpose of that is to help them facilitate some dialogue with the community members that they're engaged with. And then they sit on the committee to sort of get feedback about what's working, what's not working in a sort of real-time kind of way along the public engagement process. All that said, I'll bring up the question about this committee and whether there's a rep potential on that advisory committee moving forward. So I'll bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, I would like to make just some closing remarks, primarily dealing with Midtown. I'm one of, Councilor Garcia and I are two councilors who have expressed all along the way that we felt that this process should be more transparent. I did say that, it's a new opportunity. What else can we say? There's nothing else to say. You don't look in the rear view mirror, but you learn from your mistakes. And one of the two mistakes, one, I think this was not as transparent as we begged it to be. Too many items discussed in executive session that I didn't believe belonged in executive session. Then the reporting, the monthly reports stopped. I'm going to say 3 or 4 months from this developer, and I don't think staff did enough to drag those reports out. Frankly, I don't know who was preparing the reports, but I always thought it was staff. But we didn't get anything from to the city council. So I don't think the public really knew that. But even all along, we didn't have any input into practically anything. All that came before us was pretty much the final decisions that the committees had made prior to the staff committees, evaluation committees, to which we never knew who they were until way on into the process. There's a certain item, when you do these things, you certainly follow whatever the procurement code has you follow. But after that, there has to be a degree of respect and responsibility and professionalism. And what's been told to the city council, including at the meeting yesterday, was we kept it secret because we didn't want you to be under pressure from people calling you and asking you for favors or to do this and do that. Well, I'm sorry. I mean, that's a professional doesn't succumb to that. A professional does what is right. You listen and then you pass information on if you need to. But the spoil system from way back, I think we're a little bit over that. And spoil system also infiltrates procurement code every once in a while. But those, I don't know. I don't see anybody on our governing body that would do that. But I think there has to be a degree of trust. And so with that said, I'm certainly projecting that this process definitely needs to be more open. Dealing with this property should not be a secret. And it's too important. Everybody's got ideas. I mean, not everybody's going to be pleased. We have to funnel it into probably the highest and best use, solving some of the issues and creating some opportunities for our residents that are of good use of the property. So, I'm mindful of the comments that were made here, and I believe that this committee should be more involved. And so with this new opportunity, that's the purpose of this committee. I've been reading over some of this documentation about what this committee's responsibilities are. And the only thing I've ever been told is, oh, you only meet to pass bonds or, economic development bonds like La Puerto and all the other things, Marty's Meals, things that we have done in the past. Well, I think our purpose here is a lot more broad. In fact, I kind of had to fight to get this meeting today. And, I really realized the chair of the committee is the one who sets the standard, sets the roles. And so now that we have this new opportunity, I think it's important for us to have more oversight and more reporting and more input into what the Midtown process should be. And I'm going to figure out how to make that happen. And so I'm just kind of brainstorming in my head as this meeting went on. So I appreciate, John, your comments because they're spot on. Robert, your comments as well. And I appreciate staff. I mean, I can just hear your brains right now. Oh God, one more committee. How are we going to fit that in? Who's going to get mad at me because I'm allowing this? It's not that hard. I mean, what I'm foreseeing is that we might have more more meetings than once a month, just little check-in points with one item on the agenda, and that's it. And then we move on. I don't want to create a big old bottleneck of anything, but I really do think this committee needs to weigh in. You all have some wonderful experience, and it needs to be heard. And you can participate personally, or in your business in the public engagement process. But as a committee, I see that we have a lot more to offer. And I think the creation and purpose of this committee allows us that it allows us to give more, to offer more. And this is an important project. And it certainly isn't going to be it is going to be an economic driver. So those are that's my little pontification as chair for now. So before we move off this, does anybody else have any questions for Rich and this agenda item? Okay. So next item are matters from staff. Do we have any matters from staff?
Madam Chair, I don't have any other matters from staff. I just did. Fabian might have matters as an update for the next meeting, maybe.
I don't have any other matters from staff. I mean, all I can just say is we're working on doing negotiations with a couple of LEDA projects and be ready whenever they are. Probably looks to me like they're going to be ready probably in March and not in February.
Okay. Rich, do you have anything?
I don't, Madam Chair. I think Liz raised her hand though.
Okay, Liz, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say I think we're really excited to have Sean Moody join our team. And I don't know if you know this, but with Sean, we launched a new website called Santa Fe Public Assets.org. Looking into various assets. I think the biggest thing that we'll be seeing is Las Estrellas, which is coming up. We have a master plan for that one. And also we'll be having a panel a Q&A panel on February 18th, which will be the next thing that goes out on the Economic Development newsletter, which is for developers. And I believe it's at 2 p.m. So you should be getting that out for the Q&A session. If you want to spread the word on that, I think that I would be very grateful for you doing that. The panel will consist of Sean Moody, Rich will be moderating. We'll have affordable housing there. We'll have land use director there. And we'll also have Andrea Salazar, who's our assistant city attorney, who helps us with asset development. And I think that that's I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of it as we're discussing various assets.
Thank you, Liz. Any other hands? Okay.
It looks like Madam Chair Janice has raised her hand also.
Oh, there you are, Janice. You know, if you all could use your little raise hand, your third hand, that would be better, but that's for future meetings. I'll just remind you in the future. Okay, Janice, go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add two more things. One is there is a website too that was launched, SantaFeMarketplace.com, which was a tourism initiative. So that's part of the Shop Local initiative. So businesses can showcase their products and connect with their Shopify on that site. So that's a site that we're looking to build and add businesses to and let the community know about it. So SantaFeMarketplace.com. And the second comment I had was just that I'm so glad you mentioned that these meetings will be expanded to include like maybe more frequent meetings. That was my understanding that the EDAC meetings were happening when we had an agenda item that an IRB, a bond, or a lead item that needed to be voted on. So the fact that we're going to be discussing more is really valuable to me because I really value the experience and expertise on this committee. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, any other hands from staff?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say that I'm going to put all the links that Liz and Janice have been talking about. It'll be in this PDF of my presentation. I'll just send it out with the agenda that probably on invite. I'll just send that to you guys. So.
Okay, thank you.
Live links, you could just click on it and go from there.
And I appreciate the work you put together on these agenda items because that was good to see.
Great, great, thank you.
So next item, matters from chair. I want you all to know that I have read into the record and will be introducing a resolution to the governing body, which will go to Public Works and then to the City Council to have the governing body approve the sale of the city's land or property prior to offering it for sale to the public. That is prior to advertising it. It has sponsorship already. Certainly I'm sponsoring it, co-sponsoring it is Councilor Michael Garcia, Councilor Rene Villarreal, and Councilor Jamie Cassett Sanchez. What I've learned and have not really agreed with is that when we're considering selling property, we discuss it in executive session, and then from there, without a vote, it goes up for sale. And so I don't think that's the proper process. I think it's nothing wrong with discussing property in executive session, but after we've discussed it, then it needs to come to a public vote. And that way the public knows, hey, we're looking at selling this property. You have anything to say about it? So I think we have done it a little backwards. What I learned is that there's no ordinance or resolution that requires this. So that's what I'm doing, is introducing a resolution to do that. I don't think we ought to be having staff make decisions about what land needs to be sold and then just doing it. So there's that. The other thing is I'll work with Fabian and Rich to discuss our meeting planning so that we can incorporate Midtown. And if I need a resolution for anything there, I'll do it. Just see, how frequent, or we don't have to have a set time, but as Midtown progresses, maybe we will have more frequent meetings. So I will call for a meeting in February, even though there's no LEDA or IRB work to do. But I think it's important to continue the progress of our discussions and to know what is coming up and how we can have some input into what's going on in items that the city council is considering regarding economic development. And so that's all my comments. So with that, our next meeting, I don't know, it's not here, but for the people who are joining us, our meetings generally are the same day at 11 o'clock as the city council meetings at the beginning of the month. So for us, that would be February 10th, but I don't think, I'll have to discuss with Fabian and Rich if there's anything that we can present there, or shall we reschedule that February meeting for some presentation or something from Rich and Daniel about what is going to be presented to the city council on February 24th. So that seems like a likely agenda item. So with that, I thank you again for being here. Our meeting has gone just a little bit longer than usual, but I appreciate all the discussion. And as always, if you have anything you'd like to suggest, I'm always open for a phone call. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for being here. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.